Good morning. I'm Pastor Suzanne Jones, pastor here at Salem United Methodist Church, and I welcome you on behalf of the church, but also most importantly on behalf of the family. Thank you for coming out this morning to celebrate the life of Bobby Terrett. A few housekeeping things for you this morning. We're a small church. We don't have many accessibilities, but we do what we can. We have one restroom upstairs here. It's through these doors and into the back room there. You'll see it off to the right. And then downstairs, we also have a restroom for your convenience. It's on a stage, but don't worry, the curtains are closed. It's not awkward. Awkward place to put a restroom, but hey, when you've got an old building, you got to do what you got to do, right? Our congregation has been around since 1774, so we have been here for the community, and we're the community at heart, and we are here for you, and we're hoping to bring comfort this day. I am joined by Pastor Daryl Lehman, who knew Bobby well and will be sharing in this service with us, as well as many family members who will be participating too. Dying, Christ destroyed our death, and in rising, Christ restored our life. And Christ will come again in glory, and that is the hope we have as Christians. And as in baptism, Bobby put on Christ, and so Bobby may be clothed in glory. And here and now, dear friends, we are all God's children, no matter where we are and what journey we're taking. What we shall be has not been yet revealed. Every day is a new day. But we know that when Jesus appears, we may be like him, for we shall see him as he is, and the hope will purify us in Christ. And we are here today to give praise to God, but also to celebrate the life of Bobby Terrett. We come together sharing in our grief, but we acknowledge that human loss. Through our tears, we celebrate life, but God will grant us the grace that in pain we'll find comfort, that in sorrow we find hope, and in death we find resurrection. Now, I have been blessed to serve as this pastor here at Salem United Methodist Church for about 4 years, but I have actually grew up in this church, and I knew Susan, who is a member of his church, as well as her family, but also Bobby and Darletta, too, as they would come and visit. And although I didn't know Bobby as well as many of you have, I did know he had a love for NASCAR. And if you look around, I think you'll see that. But he not only had a love for NASCAR, he had a love for other things too, and we're going to celebrate that today. In fact, he had a love for music, and he had a love for the Grateful Dead, which I give that man props. I love the Grateful Dead too. Oh my goodness, I was so happy when I heard that. I was like, girl, I got this. Me and Darletta, we spoke about this. But today we're going to witness the legacy that Bobby left behind. And we are going to share what he meant to each of us, whether we speak it aloud or just your presence being here. That, my friends, is where we will experience God's glory. And our hope today is not only to glorify God, but to receive comfort by receiving and remembering Bobby's life. So hear these words of grace. Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and I am the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, yet shall they live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore, and I hold the keys of hell and death. And because I live, you shall live also." I invite you to join me as we go to God in prayer. Would you bow your heads? God of grace, God of the one who gave us birth, You are more ready to hear us than we are to pray. And you know our needs before we ask. And you know how hesitant we are in asking. Give us to now your grace, Lord, that as we shrink before this mystery of death, that we may see your light. Speak to us, comfort us, and be present with us, especially with Darletta, with Bobby's children, with Bobby's sister and Bobby's family and all the friends who have gathered here today. And be with those who are not present here today, yet are in our hearts. We ask this in Christ's holy name. Amen. Let us sing our first song together, a congregational hymn, The Old Rugged Cross. It can be found in the red hymnals if you'd like to follow and sing along on page 504. Please stand as you're able and let us sing.
And I love that old cross. Psalm 23, and I'm sure most of you will recognize this. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod, thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
A reading from the book of Revelation, the 21st chapter, beginning with the first verse. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. He who was seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Then he said, Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. He said to me, It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water without cost from the spring of the water of life. Those who are victorious will inherit all this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children. This is the word of the Lord. And the gospel reading for today is from the Gospel of John, the 14th chapter. As Jesus was preparing to leave this world, he spoke these words to his disciples who were confused and didn't really quite understand what Jesus was talking about. And so he gave those words to them so that they might be comforted. They are words that we share today for us to understand that in the midst of life and death, God is with us, and God will see us through. So hear these words today that Jesus spoke as words meant for you, each one of you, for Bobby, and for all of God's people everywhere. Jesus said, Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, so that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I am going." Thomas said to him, "Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way?" Jesus answered, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him." The gospel of the Lord.
I'd like to invite Tyson, Bobby's son, to come and share some special music with us this morning. Tyson. Well, Tyson is getting his guitar. I graduated with Tyson, and today is the first day I've actually physically seen him in a very long time. I've connected with him on Facebook, as well as with others from the family too on Facebook. And isn't it a joy to be able to have that kind of technology, to be able to share with family and friends, but also to see and hear some of the music that our youth, as well as our young adults, and even those who are here today share. So Tyson, we look forward to hearing from you.
Softly you screaming, left the seas while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain, it still remains within the sound. I turned my collar to the cold and dead. When my eyes were stared by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound. And in the flashed out its way, and though as it was falling, and the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and settlements halls, and whisper in the sound of silence.
Let us pray. Eternal God, we praise you even in the silence. We praise you for the great company of all who have finished their course in faith and now rest in their labor. We praise you for those who are dear to us, whom sing their song of grief or pain, of comfort, but also those who we name in our hearts before you. We especially praise you for Bobby, for whom you have graciously received into your presence. And to all of these, Lord, we ask your peace. Let the perpetual light shine upon them, and may they feel peace in the silence. Help us to believe where we have not seen, and that your presence may lead us through our years and bring us at last to them in joy. It is through your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord, we pray. Amen. I don't know what message to bring through the gift of grief. However, where my strength fails, that is where my God is stronger. And today's gospel lesson we heard from the Gospel of John. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Jesus says, trust in God and trust also in me. No offense, Jesus, that's easier said than done, right? So much pain to be able to let go and to trust, to not know the unknowing. Jesus was a man who put his faith in God because he was fully divine and fully human. A mystery we will not be able to figure out, even if we try. But we know that we can put our trust in Jesus, put our trust in the Lord. There is no doubt in my mind that Bobby put his trust in Jesus. He put his faith in God. He valued his faith and valued his family, who were so important to them. He valued his friends, his co-workers, and all who he came across with. They were important to him. So now Bobby's heart is surely with God, and we can trust that. Yet Bobby is also still here present with us, in his family, in his friends, in the memories that we share. Although Bobby has passed beyond our sight with death, it is our faith which gives us hope, and that is to help bring us comfort. Either which way you put it, Bobby was a man of full personality. Yeah, it's okay. You can giggle on that one. He was a character. He made friendships that last. And wherever he went, he would find a companion of some sort. And you knew where you stood with Bobby, too. He made sure of that in some cases. Bobby had this outer shell that may have looked at first like he was a quiet man, but then you got to know him. And you said, man, I wish I could have had that innocent thought that you were a quiet man. But he had this heart that was full of compassion and tenderness and creativity. But there was also that part of orneriness that you just had to love. And Bobby knew how to enjoy life and did his best to care for his family as well. And you could see his passion whenever he would attend racing events, or if you would see him tending his garden, or caring for his plants, and caring for the things that he enjoyed. But you also saw that tenderheartedness on display when he was sitting with that little fur baby, Foxy, right? She's got a mouth on her. Oh, God bless her. Well, Bobby and Darletta, they shared 31 years of marriage together. And the two actually met at a singles group in Williamsport. It was Williamsport Church of the Brethren. It's now Gateway Ministries. And ironically, the Gaithers sang up there last night. They had a concert. They still continue with these groups, and this is where connections are made. And that's where the connection for Darletta and Bobby started. And of course, when they got to see each other at first, it was companionship, but Bobby tried to ask her out. And Darletta said no. I don't know if Bobby was used to hearing no, but she said no. And I said, Darletta, you said no? She's like, absolutely, I said no. There was a NASCAR race on that day. I couldn't miss the NASCAR race and go on a date. Well, Bobby, he asked if he could maybe bring her lunch and watch the race with her. That's how you get the girl, huh? And then actually he asked her to explain the race to him as they were having lunch. And from that Sunday on, Darletta and Bobby would spend their Sunday afternoons together, yelling at race fans, yelling at racers, having fun. But needless to say, Bobby was hooked. He was hooked on Darletta, but he was also hooked on racing. She introduced him to it. And the two, of course, would eventually marry in 1991, and they would watch many races together. And he got to experience his first race at Martinsville, I believe. Is that right, Martinsville? Or was it Dover, the Dover race? I get the two mixed up. I'm sorry, I'm not a big race fan, but I know who not to root for. And that's anybody who's not driving a Ford. Or he'd come back and haunt me for that one. But there are many parts of Bobby's life that are before racing, and many parts of those that we will share today. Many of you know Bobby worked as an electrician for 41 years, but he didn't always want to be an electrician. Now, I don't know Bobby other than being an electrician. But actually, when he attended Salisbury University, he had a dream of becoming a game warden. Could you imagine? I can see it, but wow. Well, he studied that program for about 3 years, and then he decided, maybe I'm not best suited for this career. And so he followed in the footsteps of many in his family, and that was to be an electrician. And he had solid work, and he had a work ethic that came and stemmed out of that. He prided himself working for Brickhead Electric and Specified Electric, too. And he was a member of the Local 26, which was out of Washington, D.C., and there's several mementos here from him, and I'm sure several stories that linger in this place today of his involvement. But that electricity would keep going through him, and he would actually share his gift in wires and all that with fixing things. Like at the Ruritan, he fixed that bingo night. That machine went down, he was there to fix it. I don't know who's going to fix it now. I'm sure Bobby will guide someone. Back in the office before we came out, we have the bells ringing up at the top, and our electric back there is making a buzzing noise. I got to thinking to myself, Pastor Darrell, you think that's Bobby saying hello? I think he is. There's a few lights in our church that are not working. You think that's Bobby saying hello? Maybe. But I know Bobby would be able to fix it, right? Well, Bobby also had a love for gardening. He would tend to plants, and he actually would invite many people to come over to help can vegetables and the bounty that he would produce. You know, he looked after his gardens as his father did and his parents before them, and they had a good time doing so. And Darletta shared with me that Bobby always had a plant of something on the dinner table, whether it be a succulent or maybe a blooming flower. I have a feeling that creation was something special for Bobby. Perhaps it's a place where he felt close to God, as many gardeners feel. But there were other places where Bobby felt God's presence. Certainly whenever he was traveling and seeing the world and seeing the nation as he went to races and visited different towns. Surely he experienced God's presence when he was bowling, or when he was even watching TV, watching those crime dramas that he enjoyed. Or maybe he was experiencing God when he listened to music. He was surrounded by music. I know if he's ever been to a Grateful Dead concert, I'm sure he experienced God at the Grateful Dead concert. You can take that in any context you'd like. But I tell you, there's something in music that just, you feel it. At least for me, that's just my personal story. And I'm sure Bobby felt that too. Music was important for him. It helped express feelings where you have trouble speaking out those feelings. Yet no matter where Bobby went or who Bobby was with, Bobby was rooted. He was rooted with his faith, which was cultivated within the walls of the church, but in many different areas. He learned about God's love for him, and it's the same kind of love that God has for each of us. Bobby learned how much the cross meant to him, and how that through Christ's actions on the cross, that Bobby was saved by grace. He didn't explain it. As he told me once, I'm a simple man. I don't understand it, but I know that there is a God, and that his Son is Jesus Christ. The week before he passed, I was able to celebrate communion with Bobby, and he shared some things that are between he and God and he and me. I'm grateful for those moments. But I know that he is made right with God, and he lives eternally with God. We can have hope in that. And that promise and hope is available to us on this day. Jesus tells his disciples that he's going to prepare a place for him. A place for the disciples in his Father's house, as we heard in our gospel lesson. And we can have the assurance that there is a place of rest, refreshment, a place of grace, a place of love, and a place that I can imagine that Bobby is right now. It's a place where pain and suffering and sorrow and tears are no more. It's a place where his body is made whole, and there is no more cancer. There is no more ailment. only freedom, a place of peace and a place of rest. And we too know that there's a place of rest and refreshment for us. The disciple Thomas asked, Jesus, how do we know the way? Well, to this, Jesus responds, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And we believe and proclaim that through Jesus' presence, God has transformed death and grief. It doesn't take it away. It doesn't mean it's going to disappear. It transforms it. And Bobby believed it and now rests in the light of Christ, held in God's grace and God's presence and God's love forever. That same love and grace is offered to you and me. And God's love and grace are stronger than death. May we hold such faith in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Pastor Dan?
We're going to take some time now to reflect on Bobby's life and our connection with Bobby, whatever way that was for you. I'd like to ask you to pause for a minute and consider that relationship with Bobby. And then we're going to provide some chances for some of you who might wish to share a thought with all of us to have that opportunity. So if you'll pause for a moment and think about Bobby and give thanks for his life among us. I'm going to begin the time of reflection. My connection with Bobby Terrett came through his involvement with the Keedysville Ruritan Basket Bingo. This is a major fundraising activity for our club and its community outreach. My images of Bobby show him arranging tables and chairs to set up for bingo, and then taking down those same tables and chairs at the end of the evening to prepare the room for other activities. Another remembrance of Bobby shows him in a Ruritan apron with bucket in hand and paper tips to sell to fill up the tip jar. Down each row of seats, he would wander until all the tips were gone. Then he would return to start the journey over again. Time after time, up and down the rows, stopping to talk and to collect the money and hand out the tips. No task was too menial for Bobby to undertake to help Ruritan. He wasn't even a member of our club. We had to assign him, because of all his effort that he spent with us, to become an associate member. His work was often to repair the bingo equipment when some electrical malfunction occurred. There was seldom a day that we weren't preparing for bingo that he didn't need to leave and go home to get some supply, something we needed to get something in order to make sure that that bingo board was ready to go. Bobby was dependable with his help. He will be missed when bingo comes again 2 weeks from today. You ask who's going to fix those wires? We have no idea presently. Somebody out there who knows electrical work, we could use your help. The Roritan Club gives thanks for all that Bobby meant to us, all he did for us, and we will remember him and cherish his memory. Now it's your turn. If you have some memory you'd like to share with all of us, I would ask you to raise your hand so I can recognize you. And then I'll ask you to stand and you share with us how you knew Bobby and then what memory you would like us to know about. I saw a hand right away, right here, sir.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scott. I met Bobby through the bowling alley. And it's funny, every time I introduce a friend to my wife or my daughters, they would say, let me guess, bowling, golf, or NASCAR. And I met Bobby through bowling, and that turned into Bobby inviting me to go to NASCAR races. He was very reluctant at first because I was a Jeff Gordon fan, but since Darnetta was a fan, it was okay for me to join them, you know, but thankfully Darnetta was a Jeff Gordon fan. A couple of things you could always count on when you were traveling with Bobby. Meeting the most amazing people, friends who now are considered family. Eating to where you just felt like you were going to burst because, you know, we had so much food that it was amazing the amount of food we had. When Bobby would roll out the double shot glasses with the cheer wine and the Crown Royal, you knew that things were going to get real. The one thing that you could always count on was Bobby rolling out his zero gravity chair, lay it back, and saying, I have to call my honey bunny. As soon as we would get established in the camp, that's the first thing he would do was call his honey bunny. I remember a conversation that I had with Bobby when he was in the hospital. He had asked me, he's like, brother, I need you to help Darletta sell my motorhome. And I knew that that was very painful because he adored his motorhome. So after Bobby passed, I called Darletta and I said, I'd like to come down and take some pictures. And you talked about Bobby's present. I have thousands of pictures on my phone. And as I was taking pictures of the motorhome, I took a picture of the driver's seat, and that is the only picture that is unrecognizable. Every picture that I took, I called Troy, and I said, Troy, you're not going to believe this. But I texted Troy the pictures. Troy called me, and he said, that is just the craziest thing. So I'm like, okay, Bobby, stop showing off. We know you have your heavenly powers. You know, I know you're here, but it was just, I can't explain how this picture got so messed up. But the last thing, my very last words to Bobby were, as a Christian, our time on earth is temporary, our time in heaven is eternal. So this isn't goodbye, it's see you later. I love you, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
I can talk for hours. But
No, don't.
I'm Richard. I'm not going to do it very well. Here's my problem. Like my problem. We met him in Darnetta 20 years ago bowling. We bowled together. The first time we bowled together, they wasn't even there. We didn't know why. We come to the bowl, they were at a race. We didn't realize why they weren't there on a Friday night. Then come to find out they were at a race. Then he came the next week and we got to know each other. We bowled a lot and drank a little bit, or maybe not a little bit. We had a lot of fun bowling. So he got me into racing, so we started bowling, we bowled together. We bowled on Monday night, Friday night. Then we started going to racing together. I got his tickets for Richmond, so he got me going to Richmond. So I'm going to Richmond and Dover, Bristol, and just a bunch of races. And I usually sat with him in the motorhome. I was usually shotgun man, so I always drove with him. We talked about a lot of different things, just traveling down through, just going to Bristol with Mark. Yeah. Bobby was a great man. He did a lot of work. He did electrical work in my house. He just did a lot of things for everybody. He was like my brother. He was a great man. I love the man to death. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about bowling. Well, I don't know about bowling, but anyhow, because last week, and I know it was all in Bobby's hands, I bowled a 300 game with him one time, my only 300. And this week I bowled what was a clean game, which I had no opens. And I truly believe that Bobby looking over me helped me get through that, because we bowled a lot together, and usually I subbed for him when he didn't bowl, so I took his place a lot of times. And he looked over me a lot, and we had a lot of conversations just about racing and football, and he always would sit beside me. He was my right-hand man when we set at the track. He was always with me when we went to races. And I know I was with him today. I don't know if y'all know, but he was a big backhanded fan. Until the day that he registered in Ghana at Martinsville. That day he sat beside me, and that day from on now on he came back. He would never root for him again. He sat beside me, so I'll never root for that. I want to say what he said, I'll never root for him again. I understand Bobby, he's a Ford man, but backhanded was his man till that day. From that day on, he could never stand backhanded again. So we just had a lot of camp fun, racing. We drank a few shots, and just a lot of different things we had our time together. We ate a lot of food, like Scott said. We did a lot of bowling together, like I said. We met bowling. It was a great time. Bobby was such a great person. He could do anything for anybody. He would help anybody do anything. Like I said, he came to my house, and we did all my electrical. Put a new electrical panel box in, and we did all my electrical. He didn't charge me nothing. Now, currently we had a big tree fall over one time, and I gave him all the wood, too. So that was kind of exchanged at that time. So he helped me with that. But Bobby will be in my heart forever. I love you, man. You're my brother. I love you. Rest in peace.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
I'm Sean. I would comment on follow Scott's comments and Richard's comments. Scott, you were right on the nail with everything. One thing Bobby and I liked was always heading down 81 South, first thing in the morning on the left-hand side, Front Royal and everything, that mountain range. Bobby was talking about being a game warden, and I always liked to camp through that area, hike through that area as a young man. And Bobby and I shared that. We talked about those mountain ranges every single time. And Richard and I just went down to Darlington, driving by there. I couldn't keep my eyes dry just because looking at those mountains, just thinking of Bobby, because he and I backpacked a lot of the same trails all those different times, and we would talk about them. You're right, the food. We ate like kings when we were here. We really did. And we drank like fools. And that's just part of it. We had a good time. We always looked out for each other. That was one thing that Bobby did do. We always made sure. Trish, I got to tell you, you've always made sure your boys were back at camp. Like up the right side. Yeah. So, I've met everybody in this room, everybody standing here, through Bobby. I remember the first time I got invited to go because I was Richard's friend. And I got invited to go, and I was tickled to death. And I remember getting on the phone with Darletta before I even talked to Bobby about going. And because I called the house to set it up. And I was just getting to know them, meeting Trish, and throughout the years, not Trish, I'm sorry, Darletta, I'm sorry. So, just everything, just getting to know and talking to them and all. Bobby also shared with, one thing I liked about the tracks is the old tracks. And Bobby and I had a passion for Martinsville, Bristol, and the old tracks. And we would talk about it. And we came up from a different era in NASCAR. And we probably joined about the same time if I let it introduce them back in the early 80s. Because that's when Kim introduced me in 86. So, we just, I don't know, it was a different era then, and we really liked it. And that's why I liked about Bobby. He and I saw the sport from the same perspective. So, anyway, thank you for meeting everybody here at Survey Stand. I've spent many hours with and days with. And all the extended family. You guys are wonderful people. We're all going to miss him. And like Richard said, love him to death. So miss him.
Thank you, sir. Way in the back.
I knew Darla's family before I met Bobby. Met Bobby too. I just really had a terrible time. But anyhow, I felt like the father of the group. And he made me feel like I was his age. But the trips are not going to be the same. They have lost their luster. We're all going to miss it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Timothy Hobson with Virginia, and I'm just like Richard, I can talk too, so I'm make sure Mr. Pastor Lane doesn't put the checkered flag off this. As the pastor here, I heard you say you didn't really know Bobby, but I think you need to give yourself a little more credit because you made a statement that if a major artist will do anything for you, and on the outside, just like a very humble, quiet person, but when needed to, will let you know what needs to be said. I think you need to give yourself a push. I met Bobby several times coming down to the original race. They parked in my hair salon for years, Trish, Jay, all of them. And we had an electricity problem one time, and it was a day while this was running around. Trish is telling me, Tim, it's going to be all right, it's okay. And I just tell myself, I know it's going to be okay because I'm leaving. But when I get back the next morning, everything is up and running fine. The first person to come to call the meeting is Bob. And I said, well, he said, I took care of everything. He rehooked something up that I don't know anything about. He had juice, we had power. And this was from the Dominion Power saying that I don't know how long it's going to be now. But he didn't tell Bob that. Bob didn't know, Bob didn't care. And I said, what can I extend to you? What do I owe you? Can we just repay some of this quality money back? I mean, good. Let's go do what you can do. I said, no, I need to at least extend something to you because this is my employees are still going to be able to operate while we go and enjoy places. He's like, no, Tim, look on the side. So I'm going to do something. He said, look, buddy. I don't tell you what to do on the side with your clippers. My wife. I stepped back because nobody. I saw that look before. I am a grown man. And I know when a man speaks.
Come on.
He gave me a hug. I said, well, you okay? He said, yeah. He said, now when you get ready, come over here, get some of this rockfish. That was Sean Shield wine Brown Roy. Get on the inside deal. So from that moment, I knew exactly where we stood. I respected him as a man. He basically was saying, I don't tell you what to do with your money, don't tell you what to do with mine. My compassion and gift that I got from God and give to others, enjoy it, and we do the same thing. And from that moment on, it's always been fine. Some of the people I see here now, people that he's invited to come to Richmond with him, what they didn't know before they came with Bobby was Bobby had already told a story about him, who was from. So I tell you, Richard, I'll tell you, you might be a candidate for the best visitor I ever had. And something else, he always spoke about family, baseball, those grandkids, the time he had with them, God, all the things you all spoke of, just a recap. And if he knew that we did do that song being played today in his honor, I can tell you, he would graciously appreciate it. I can honestly say that. Yes. So I like just to Bobby, we love you. You won't be missed because you have too much of an impact on all of our lives, regardless of how little we saw you. So semi-annual, but I was like a kid at Christmas waiting to see him. So safe travel all the way to King to see him, visit him, and God bless you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name's Kim Hudson. My husband Chris, we're from Ocean City. We've had the very good fortune to meet Bobby from our friends Dave and Sonia, and we had the love of camping and the love of NASCAR with them. And like Scott and Mr. Dave and Scott, Sean and Richard Tinkle and Squeaky. And all of the family that we consider here now, I want to show an appreciation to Bobby for making this our camping and NASCAR family and thanking him for being the person he was to us and bringing us in to this family. Trish, Charlie, all of you, you are our family now. And Bobby, we thank you and we miss you every day. And I think it is moonshine, that's me.
Thank you. Way in the back, sir.
My name's Joey, I'm an electrician. Probably 20 years, 17 years or something, worked with us. Good friend, great electrician. He was, I would call him my boss, I guess, co-worker. And if I ever had a question, I'd call him, just like that, to answer all the time. He knew everything. I told him one day, I said, you're the smartest guy I've ever met. He knew everything. I was second to thought on the moonshine. And I was driving to work one day, a little transit vehicle, and this deer jumped right through my windshield. I happened to be on the phone talking to Bobby after a bunch of construction type words. He's like, where are you? And I don't know how far it is to cross, an hour and a half maybe from here. And he turned around and came right back. And he stood on the road with me until my wife showed up, made sure I was good, and went on to work. He was a good person.
Thank you for sharing. We've been given a glimpse of a part of Bobby's life and the impact he has had on so many people. Some of us never were invited to Richmond, but
Yeah.
sounds like fun.
You could just imagine.
Anyone else? Thank you. And all of that's in honor and memory of Bobby. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Before we give our commendation this morning, and that's just church language for the blessing, wanted to share a song from the Grateful Dead. That is a song, actually, it's a Christian spiritual song that was sung many years before the Dead as a funeral song. And they would be singing this song in communities, grouped communities, as they say goodbye to their friends. And as we say goodbye and remember our memories of Bobby, I felt this song may be fitting for such occasion. So listen to the words. May they speak to your hearts. And if you would like to sing along with them, by all means, sing along.
Lay down, my dear brothers, lay down and take your rest. I want you to lay your head upon your Savior's breast. I love you, oh, but Jesus loves you the best. And I bid you good night, good night, good night. And I bid you good night, good night, good night. and I bid you good night. Good night. Good. Walking in Jerusalem just like John. Good night. Good night. I remember right well. Good night. Good night. His right shall comfort me. Good night. Good night. Tell me on the altar that wonderful oh, good night. Good night. While the feet for the beast at the end of the wood. Good night. Good night. Good to eat on the children would not be good. Good night. Good night. While that bright staff shall comfort me. Good night. Good night. Good night. Lay down, my dear brothers. Lay down and take your rest. I want you to lay your head upon your Savior's breast. I love you, oh, but Jesus loves you the best. And I bid you good night, good night, good night. And I bid you good night, good night, good night. Sing it with us. Lay down, my dear brothers, lay down and take your rest. I want you to lay your head upon your Savior's breast. I love you, oh, but Jesus loves you the best. I bid you good night, good night, good night. And I bid you good night, good night, good night. And I bid you good night, good night, good night.
Friends, if you would be in an attitude of prayer. Gracious God, nothing in death or life, nothing in this world as it is, nothing in all creation can separate us from your love. Jesus commended his spirit into your hands at his last hour, and into those same hands we now commend your servant, Bobby Terrett, that in dying to the world and cleansed from sin, death may be for him the gate to life and to eternal fellowship with you. To you, loving God, we commend Bobby's spirit. Receive him into your arms of mercy. Raise him up with all your people. And may we who are left behind find comfort in the love that he shared with us and the memories that he left with us for the years to come. May we also find comfort in your loving and merciful and compassionate presence. To those who doubt, give light. To those who are weak, strength. And to all who have sinned, give mercy. To all who sorrow, give your peace through Christ our Lord. Christ our Lord, who taught his disciples to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.
gathered round your grave to grieve. Wish I could see the angels' faces when they hear your sweet voice sing. So go rest high on the mountain. Son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven to shout love for the Father and the Son. Go rest high on that mountain. 'Cause son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven and shout love for the Father and the Son. Go to heaven and shout love for the Father and the Son.
Friends, that concludes our service this morning. But I encourage you to continue to share memories and continue to speak about Bobby, because each of you know a story about him, and each of you have a relationship with him. And speaking his name aloud and remembering those memories, they keep his memory and his legacy alive. Everyone needs to know about Bobby. Amen? Amen. Everyone. If we had more like him, right? It keeps him alive. And in the weeks and days to come, watch over one another. I'm sure you will. It sounds like you're going to be passing back some recipes. But also, people find comfort from one another too. And so comfort for one another, check in on one another, as well as people find comfort in being part of a Christian community. And if you live in the area, you know where the church is now. So come and visit us here at Salem. You're more than welcome to come on a Sunday morning at 10:30 here at Salem. I know Bobby enjoyed some service here every once in a while, as well as Darletta. And Pastor Darrell, you're retired now, but he has the Lutheran church up at the other end of town too. But connect with the Christian community around you. Maybe reconnect with a community that you haven't seen in a while. We all find comfort through our different ways, and whichever it is, may they be healthy ways. Now receive this benediction, my friends. Please stand as you are able. Now may the love and peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, keep your hearts, be among you, and remain with you always. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. As we conclude today, I invite you to go downstairs. We have a fellowship for you. The people of the church here have prepared a meal for you to enjoy and to celebrate memories too. You're welcome to come up to the altar and to view of anything. And if to get downstairs, you can go out this way or come down these stairs too. These are the safer stairs. Those are for the risk takers back there. They're a little more narrow, but these are a little wider, a little more safe this way. And we will have our fellowship downstairs. But before we have our fellowship, let's say a prayer. So all we have to do is go down there and eat, right? So let's bless our food. Father in heaven, thank you for this time together that we have had. We thank you for family and friends and memories. But Lord, we just thank you so much for Bobby. And Lord, as we are downstairs, bless the meal that has been prepared for us. We thank you for the hands that prepared it, and may that meal nourish us as we go and continue in our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. That concludes our service this morning.